Okay, so hello everyone. In this video, let's see if we can install a starter motor on this thing. This, like I've said in my previous videos, 18 horsepower diesel engine, air-cooled. So it just arrived today, and let's see if we can install it here, okay? Together with this gear for the flywheel. And before we install this, let's see if this thing works. So we're going to test the solenoid as well as the motor itself. So if we look closely, we have two terminals here. This one is for the positive terminal, directly towards the positive terminal of your battery, and this one is for the solenoid switch. Okay, so let's check this one first. Now, as for the negative side, any part of the body of the motor is part of the negative. So if we touch this with this, that makes contact with the negative, okay? So essentially, there are two tests that we need to do with the solenoid. Once we contact this with the positive, this gear should come out, and we should have continuity from here to here, okay? So connect one side here, and should we connect this here, we should see this come out, okay? And it already started moving. Anyway, another test that we need to confirm is continuity test. Okay, it should beep. One here and one on the other side. Okay, so let's do that test. But I do believe it's going to have continuity, because when we did that earlier, it already started to spin, but we're going to confirm, okay? See, it's beeping. That means it has continuity. And now let's test the motor itself. Should we connect it here, it should not turn, and it's not turning. But should we connect it here, it should turn, okay? Hold on. And it's turning, see? And it's turning in this direction, from this angle, counterclockwise. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this turns in this direction, counterclockwise from this angle, okay? And that's important if you're going to buy one for yourself, because it also comes in a reverse rotation. So this is going to turn this way, and the flywheel, the gear, is going to turn this way, okay? So the flywheel is going to turn this way, okay? Meaning the engine is going to rotate in this direction. And I need that way, because this pump is going to work only with this direction. So bear that in mind should you wish to install a starter motor for yourself, okay? So before we install it here, we need to remove this and also install this on the flywheel. So I'm going to remove the air filter, this, as well as the cover for the flywheel. So remove the air filter housing, and just to ensure that we can put everything back the way it was assembled, let's mark it here. Okay, now remove that, and we need to undo this as well. So again, just so we can be sure, let's mark that there and mark it here. So I already took this out, and what do you know? There are spacers, okay? 4 spacers. So now let's remove the flywheel cover. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so pull that out. And there's our flywheel. And we need to remove the flywheel because we need to insert this. There, see that? Again, just so we can be sure that we're going to be able to put this back together the way it was assembled, we need to mark it, just to be on the safe side. So the flywheel is obviously only held on by this nut. I'm going to take that out. So I'm going to use this Allen wrench, insert that there, in order to prevent the flywheel from spinning, okay? And the reason for that is I don't want to buttress it up against the fins, okay? Because it might break. So I do believe this is safer this way. I'm going to try and apply heat on the nut, just the nut, okay? So that the nut will slightly expand, and maybe that will help us remove this nut. Okay, let's try. Okay, so that's that. This is our crank. And I do believe why it was so difficult to remove it, because they obviously put some Loctite on this. So now let's try to pull the flywheel off with a bearing puller, 3 jaws, okay? I do believe that's why we have 3 holes there, to facilitate pulling the flywheel off with this. Okay, so anyway, managed to pull the flywheel off with this 3 jaw bearing puller. Sorry about that, I thought I was recording, but I wasn't. But this is how I managed to take this off. Now we can install our gear on here, okay? But before that, I'm going to clean this off with a wire brush. So I already cleaned this surface with a wire brush. So the way I'm going to install this is like this, because if we take note at the gear, you see this one is beveled. On here it's not. So it's going to look somewhere like this. Here is where the starter motor is going to protrude. Trying. Okay, we are successful. So there's our flywheel gear. I'm gonna wait for this to cool down. It took a while, but this worked. I wish I do have an oxyacetylene torch though. Maybe in time I'll buy one too. So it's cool to the touch now, and that's how you install a flywheel gear, okay? No other fasteners needed. The way this thing works is this flywheel gear is slightly smaller than the diameter of this flywheel, okay? That's why we need heat, so that this will expand slightly, put it in, and then once this cools down, that's going to have a firm grip on the flywheel itself. So I'm going to install, make sure that the keyway is aligned. Okay. Flywheel washer. Before I screw in the flywheel nut, I'm going to apply Loctite just on the end, okay? Based from the workshop manual found online, we need to torque this between 159 and 166 foot-pounds. Okay, there. Now we can install our starter motor, but before we do, we need to remove this. Okay, one, and this is just a cover. Okay, so you'll no longer be able to use this bolt because it's short. It won't reach this thread. So I bought these stainless bolts. Let's see. Install our starter like this. Okay. So the bolt that I bought is a lot longer, so I'm going to need to cut it down to size. So I already managed to screw in the bolts. One here, one here. Okay. I also already cut it down to size because this especially is going to interfere with the gear, but I cut them both down. Okay, so let's see if we have clearance. I'm going to hold down the compressor, okay, lever, and as you can see, it turns freely, and our flywheel gear is installed nicely. See, uniform, perfect. So before I will reinstall everything back on, like the flywheel cover as well as the manual crank, let's try to test the solenoid and see if it engages the flywheel gear freely. Okay, let's do that. So I'm just going to use my jumper cable, or booster cable if you will. Black is negative, red is positive. Gonna connect the negative here and the positive here. I shorted it out. See, so be careful, positive here. And for our solenoid switch, I simply am going to use this, okay, and then touch it, the positive. So we're not going to start the engine, okay? We'll just see if this starter is going to engage the gear and make the flywheel rotate. I'm also going to depress the compressor lever. Okay, so let's try. And it works. So I'm going to put back everything together. So put the flywheel cover back on. And before I install this, there's just one thing I want to show you. See? This is the importance of marking. You see that? It's not a perfect square. And I searched online, the parts all really look like that. So that is, like I've said, the importance of marking everything before taking it apart. Okay, so it's all assembled now, and let's see if we can start this engine without having to use the compressor lever. Actually, it won't turn the engine. You really need to depress the compressor, even with a starter motor. Let's try that again. Sorry about that, forgot to open this valve, fuel valve, okay? Once you do this, it opens the gas tank to allow fuel to flow into the fuel pump. So let's do that again. So the compressor lever still needs to be engaged. And let's start the engine. Okay, so very easy. Let's do that again. Okay. So there it is. That's how you install a starter motor as well as a flywheel gear on one of these engines. 192F 18 horsepower diesel air-cooled engine. So for the time being, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm just going to use my jumper cable as well as this for the switch, okay? I'm not going to complicate life. I did, however, added this tape just so I could avoid shorting the positive with the body of the starter. I just wanted to have the option of being able to start this through a starter motor, because doing it through here, I tell you, it's difficult. Now I know there's a product wherein you can attach a crank on one of these. You crank it like so, release the lever, and then the engine starts. But I don't know if that type of crank is available for this type of engine. And I've seen the prices of one of those things, and it's expensive. More expensive than the starter motor. I paid for more or less 2,400 pesos for this. That's roughly about 40, maybe $50. And the prices I've seen available for one of those cranks, at least here where I'm located, is at least about 3,000 pesos. So this is more cheaper. But maybe in time, if I can find one that is cheaper and that fits this model, maybe I'll purchase that too. So that way, I will have the option of manually starting this engine and starting this engine with a starter motor. So, like I've said, this is a work in progress. Maybe in time, I will be able to afford a 7.5 or at least 10 kVA alternator. Okay, so this is going to be a 2-in-1 machine, one for the water pump and one for the generator. And maybe when that happens, I'm going to attach a battery, okay, a dedicated battery for this as well as a dedicated switch. So I do believe that's it. I just wanted to share this with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this informative. If you do, let me know in the comments below. Like, share, and if you're new to my channel, subscribe if you want to. Only if you want to, and as always, thank you for watching.